Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday night live stream. As you can see, I've got a couple of my buddies here tonight with me to help me get the ball rolling. So let me tell you exactly what's been going on. We're just going to pull back the curtain, tell you how the magic is made. Here we go. We have been recording some new podcast episodes for the church podcast, and we'll be releasing those over the next few weeks together. I know some of you guys are excited about that. So those are to come. These guys have been working on that. And I asked them to stay for the Wednesday night live stream time tonight to have a discussion that starts off a new series that will begin this Sunday. So for the next few weeks on Sunday mornings, we are going to have a presentation, a talk, an examination of some places in the New Testament, specifically the Gospels, that have to do with the subject of emotions. We're calling it emotionality. And so we're going to compare some of the places in the Gospels where we see Jesus displaying emotion, and we're going to connect those with what real human emotion should be following in those examples. And so that's what we're going to be doing on the Sunday morning hours. Then on Wednesday evenings during the live stream time, we're going to invite people from the congregation, just like these guys are from the congregation, to come in and sit in a small group type setting and discuss some of the things that take place in the Sunday morning teaching in a deeper, more like discussion-based way. It'd be similar to watching or participating in a small group. Couple little side notes that I want to add. If you're just, you know how some people are just better learners, like in-person learners rather than online learners and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And if you've already been coming on Wednesday night and participating in the live stream by being in the service live, we have quite a few people that do that, or have been coming to the Wednesday night Bible study that follows the live stream, you're still invited to come. It's just that we're going to take a break and do this for this series. So we're going to allow a live audience for the live stream that goes out on Wednesday night. So let me just put that into words that my grandparents would understand, okay? If you stay home, you can watch the live stream on our Facebook channel, our YouTube channel, on our app. Or you could actually be in the service and watch live these small group discussions that are taking place, and we're going to allow that group that's in here to ask questions of the group that's being interviewed during the live stream panel. So it's just a way to integrate some of the things we've been doing from a small group. It's like cool. Donahue. Yeah.
Sally, Jesse, Raphael.
Geraldo.
Dating ourselves.
Geraldo.
It's Helrado.
Okay. It's Divine. It's more like Jerry Springer.
Yeah, that's true. So, and if you want to, it's always a live stream. So if you're watching this tonight and you have questions or comments that you'd like to make, or in the future, these next few Wednesday nights, you can also comment either on Facebook or on YouTube, and we will read those comments and refer to those and ask the panel those questions that come up in the comments for this live stream. So let's dive in tonight in kind of an unusual way, and maybe you can relate to this. Let's start off with some personal stuff in the discussion surrounding emotionality. Can I ask you a tough question? You guys ready? Okay, I'm going to give you a second, and whoever wants to go first, you can go first, right? And you may help out the others by giving them a moment, right? When's the last time you really cried, and why? I mean, really cried, boo-hoo cried. Okay. Hit it.
Marriage problems.
Okay.
Did it.
Okay.
Got a little testy, little unanswerable, frustrated, anxious. And
yeah.
Just had to let it out real quick.
Was it you alone? Was it you?
Oh yeah, I don't do that in front of people. I don't cry in front of people. This is me, myself, and God. We had that moment.
Okay, why not in front of people? You sounded like you had some disdain.
I don't know. I think that's a private moment. I think it does more harm than help when a person sees you in that type of situation where it's like, wow,
Do you think you keep your emotions more guarded in front of people?
I would say that I try to go ahead and keep them in check as much as possible, but I know I'm a very emotional person, so that's kind of hard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Did it surprise you? Had it been a long time since you cried?
Man.
Yeah? It's cathartic, though, isn't it? Something happens after
It
that.
felt. Oh, good.
It's like a weird thing, right? It's like throwing up.
It felt
It is
good.
weird.
It
is like throwing
right?
up.
Like
Yeah.
there's this thing that it's like this weird. Like when you,
Yeah.
but when you think about like crying is such a weird thing, right? Like water comes to your eyes. There's this almost uncontrollable outpour of emotion or feeling, right?
I think that might be your peak emotional state.
Yeah.
It's like,
Out of anything, I think if you could get to the point where you could start tearing, and there's a lot of stuff going on.
yeah. I cry quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when
You
It
cry
was-
like movies?
it wasn't the last time I cried.
Everything in
it
Disney.
wasn't, it wasn't the last time I cried, but my dog died unexpectedly
Ugh.
in 2020.
Bro,
And it was like at like
Bro.
3 a.m.
Condolences.
Yeah, that hurts.
It was at 3 a.m. This was like my dog. Every time I came home from Jacksonville, it was at the door. It was like a
Yeah,
little
that
poodle,
hurts.
sat on my lap. 3 a.m.
funny.
died in my sister's bed, like almost like exploded in her bed. Like a bunch of stuff came out of him. And then I carried him in my arms while he was like doing little breaths.
he's
so
doing
he
the
was
little-
dying
no.
in
He
my
died in your
arms on the way to the bed.
hands.
So
Oh
we
my
go there.
gosh, this is a horrible story.
We go there.
I don't know that I can top
my
that.
dog's dead. I'm over
I
here.
can't-
I'm identified. I'm like, man, my dog.
I went to the vet,
That.
so I went to the vet, and like everyone knows, like this was the whole family liked him, but this was like my dog, and so we go to the vet, they take him back, they come back, they're like, yeah, he was dead in your arms, and I was like,
Oh,
so I walked to the car, my dad stayed in there, it was after we had stayed and stuff, like I got his collar in my car right now, but I cried so hard, and I was like, really in 2020, you know, it's like toward the end of 2020.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah, rough
really,
year.
I'm like,
how
really,
am
I'm
I
like,
here?
yeah, I said, really, like, of course, 2020, this is gonna be like my 2020 story, I guess, and it could be worse and stuff. But I cried hard for
Yeah.
like 2 minutes, and then my dad walked out the door, and and I was like, I got that out. That's normally how it goes. Now, the last time I cried was last Sunday, I think. It was during a worship session,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
I was like standing on the altar in front of the drummer, and it was my favorite worship song of all time, and it was just a big part, and I just got overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Like the last time I cried like that too was at a service. I just can't remember what it was. But I know at that moment I was like, I'm not worthy, Jesus. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. But then I cry out of like dumb stuff. Like I cry out of anger. Like
Okay.
if I'm angry, like I just like bottling up, not like exploding. Like I just start tearing up.
Yeah,
Out of frustration.
Out of
gotta come
frustration.
out.
Yeah.
It comes out
which-
somehow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like with my daughter too, like with the kids, like if they do something and I'm like, as a parent trying to understand like how different my parents were with me and how I try to be with them.
Okay.
And then they act certain way. I'm like why would you even do that? Like, that's just, you're just hurtful and you're taking advantage of the fact that
Right.
I'm not being a certain way with you. So I think being felt taken advantage of a couple of months back with my youngest, I was like just frustrated and I cried and I went and talked to her and I was like, you're just hurtful. Like I'm happy that you're this young girl that doesn't really care about what the outside world thinks and you're strong and independent, but there's a point that you're like a little bit too much. Like it's almost heartless. And like to see your child be that sometimes,
It's hard.
it's hard. And I remember crying like man, like I've loved this girl more than anything. Like she's the baby girl,
Yeah.
and she's like the toughest, like emotional wise, like hold on. I mean, she didn't let down and cry until she saw me cry.
How about you?
Probably like Monday.
Like so yesterday.
Being real.
So don't make it sound like it was like 3 weeks ago. It was like yesterday.
That's today.
Oh wait, yesterday was Tuesday.
I'm being
Yeah.
real.
Let me be real.
Yeah,
That shit-
What an
yeah.
interesting question to ask a panel of guys, though. You know.
Yeah. But like, you wanna go into why? You feel safe enough to drop some of that?
Broad stroke.
Yeah, that's what the broad.
Yeah. It's mourning things that have happened over the last 2 years that I'm still kind of
Process.
working through and processing. Yeah, but I still have my episodes where I really really mourn things. So
Well, we're rooting for you. We're praying for you. You're gonna get past this, brother.
Yeah.
Believe me.
I appreciate it.
Got your brothers right here.
How about you there, Ginger brother? When's the last time you let one out?
I've never cried.
when his baby
Not
was
with this
born.
beard.
Gingers don't cry.
When the baby was born.
Coursing through his veins.
We don't have feelings. No soul.
Gingers don't have soul.
Come on.
I don't cry. I just water my beard.
Can't you see how shiny?
Nice.
I just water my.
Yeah.
When the baby, when your
Like
baby
that
was born.
grow.
When the baby was born.
No, honestly, when my daughter was born.
Yeah.
I would say I teared up when she was born, like in the room. But then when we got home, it kind of hit me. I'm like, oh crap. Like I'm a dad. You know, like this is
That's crazy.
pretty
Serious
overwhelming.
stuff.
And I wept and I'm praying. I was like happy, but I'm also
Yeah.
like freaking out. I'm like, God help me. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a moment of
I
reckoning.
don't know what the heck
Yeah.
I'm doing.
That's cool.
And I literally wept and like cried on my kid. I felt bad, but I was like weeping on the baby, and the wife's in the other room because she's, you know, exhausted, and I'm just sitting there holding the kid, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, I can't do this, you know.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
But yeah,
You've been doing
That's
a great
cool.
job.
I've been
so
doing
far,
it for
bro.
10 months now.
Come on,
so.
man.
Awesome.
Also, when you
that.
change the first diaper,
That basically
That
means
also-
0. So like, just letting you know. Good luck. Okay.
Yeah.
He's 10 months. 10 months. He's got 1 kid. Does that even count? Does that even count? No.
Mike, you sound a little jaded.
I'm just
I don't
saying.
know why.
Come on,
you know.
man.
It's like a hobby.
That's
when
like
was the last time
Like,
that you
come
had like
on,
a good
go
cry?
on.
Somebody's bitter.
I would
Yeah.
say the last time I really cried was probably at Jenny's funeral. And
Oh,
and-
yes.
And when I was with
Yeah.
I
my
remember.
wife and I was with Jenny the day she passed.
Yeah,
That was
that was a
amazing.
good. That was a big one for me too.
At the at the hospital.
At the hospital.
That was
a
that was
rough,
tough.
That was a rough time.
God bless.
Rough time.
Everything
Yeah, that was tough
about
for
that
everybody,
was
man.
hard. There was not
Yeah.
one easy part of that one.
You know
Yeah.
what's so crazy is that everybody knew that was happening, but still, when it happened, it's still like
Devastating.
It blows the wind out of you, man.
Yeah.
It blows the wind.
There were so many elements of it that were
Yeah.
heartbreaking.
I remember I was at work, and I got word of it. And at work, like I you know, obviously it was controlled, but you know, it
No.
it hit me. Like
No.
I had a show of emotion at that
No.
point. Yeah.
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 My
I
wife.
think it hit a lot.
She was very much loved and cared for.
Oh,
here.
Yeah.
definitely, man.
I think that was a real deal. All right, so do you think guys, what is the deal? Like, this is not exactly our strong suit. Like,
Crying?
no, I
Emotion.
would say emotion at any level.
Oh, yeah.
It's weird,
you're actually
right?
Yeah.
You're actually
We're
right,
not
yes.
exactly killing it when it comes to like handling like anger very well, when, or either, or being open about
Or talking about it.
hurt or pain.
Yeah.
Like it's hard for us to even admit why we cried.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Or cry in front of somebody else.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's a weird thing. We're like, no, I can't do that. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
No,
like,
it's true.
like everybody here just stated a time where we cried pretty much by ourselves.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Well, you cried with your wife. That
I
was-
can't cry in front of my
private.
wife.
I still
She would
kinda
probably,
private.
she would probably say, I cried. You might have shed like one solo tear. You know what I'm saying? But I
You're like, but that was my cry.
yeah, well.
My wife shuts me down. She's like, "You can cry, but don't sob." I'm like, "Okay, I'm all right."
Well, I think as man, this is loaded.
Leaders of the household?
I think
No. Yes.
Yeah, probably.
I
Leaders
think
of the
that
household?
there's a certain stoicism and restraint that should come with being a man. Now, we should have a safe place that we should normalize having solid like brotherhood bonds with other men and being able to do that in the safety of those like brotherly like
Hey, man, what are you
relationships.
saying? You saying we can't cry in front of women?
We should not. No.
Women in general, or
Nope. But
the
we.
women
But
of
that's.
your
A,
house?
but you don't want to go off this tangent right now.
No,
Wait a minute. What just
No,
happened?
no. He isn't saying that you can't, because I think I'm in line with
No,
what
am.
you're
he
saying.
definitely said
I am
that.
saying. I'm saying you. We should not.
No, try not to. Not saying it's impossible. Like, if it happens, it happens. But
If
you
it happens,
Yeah,
it happens.
but avoid it at all
It should
costs.
be
You
kept
can,
to
yeah, 'cause
a.
I avoid it. It is like, I'm like, let me see if I can cry in front of somebody. I feel like, especially your woman, wife,
Your-
your mother,
yeah.
sisters.
Why would you say
Your
that?
mother's fine.
Your mother's fine?
Yeah, maybe your sister. Yeah. Your
Dig
mother
up,
and your
what is
sister.
the rules here? I've not heard
I don't
these
know. I don't
rules.
know. I'm trying to get.
Wait a
them
minute.
too.
I'm like, where?
We can talk after the
I
podcast.
need to get the handbook of Jorge.
Yeah, but, like what? Like what is the thinking here? Like what's the group that you can't cry in front of?
Your wife.
Your wife.
Oh, your wife.
I know I don't agree with it, but I'm just saying by what he's saying.
Yeah.
Let's just be clear.
It's not like wife.
Why can't you cry in front of your wife?
we don't want to go into the end of this podcast, but it's just not. That's not. You are, your role as a husband is to be an emotional rock, to be stable, to be able to handle things, and give her the confidence that as a man
You got
of the
this.
household, yeah, you got.
All right,
this.
think about
It doesn't
this.
mean that you can't feel things,
no.
but like
I think I can
you're not
get it.
you're not
Think
supposed to
about
be
this.
burdening your wife with your
All right,
emotions and
think about
burdening
this,
her all
Mike.
the time about how hurt you are about something.
One of the biggest things a woman needs in life is security. That's one of the biggest things. I don't care what they tell you. A woman wants
Right.
security. So, you're with somebody. Listen, think about it. You're a woman, you want security,
Right?
And your man
with
is weeping.
somebody who's always weeping and crying like a little.
Okay, wait a minute.
the
Hold
time,
on.
girl.
Listen. Okay, nobody said all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have added a lot of like layers to this.
Yes.
All the time.
Okay.
Okay.
No. How about this?
There will be
Okay.
situations that come in life that are so that I mean you'd have to be dead to not express some sort of
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that that though if we're talking about crying,
You're
that
talking
should
about
be
hard crying.
that should be reserved for a very, very, very safe space.
But you're saying
And-
it doesn't involve women.
Your wife should not be
No,
included
he's
in
saying very special occasions.
Yeah,
At least for me. That's what
outside,
I'm thinking.
outside of a
Special
major
occasions.
event where it's like outside of a
Special
major event where you'd have to be
Hanukkah.
dead to not express, but like to just I regularly cry around my wife. No, that should not be a thing. Call your brother.
This
Cry
is
with
going to
him.
be a really interesting series.
Yeah, I'm liking this.
Yeah,
Already, this is going to be a crazy series.
I mean-
okay, what do you think? Are you surprised? You look as surprised
little
as I
bit,
did.
a little bit,
Ginger
yeah.
surprise. This is a ginger surprise to me. Okay.
I've definitely, I mean, it's not like constant, but I've like wept, like with my wife or, towards my, or to my wife.
Hard?
Like, oh yeah.
Whoa.
Crying hard.
Yeah, like a good hard cry, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
because tearing.
Yeah,
I've
this
teared,
is
I've teared.
Like watch
Come on,
Marley
man.
and me, you're
Hard.
gonna tear up. You know what I mean? Like, that's
You saw the sequel? Did you see the sequel? Grace, did you saw the sequel to Marley and Me?
I didn't see it either.
It's called Me.
I'm joking. What?
It's called Me.
No, it was
The sequel to
for me,
Marley and Me.
it was like 2 years ago. I did that.
he said the
called
sequel
Me,
to
I
Marley and
expect
Me is Me. It's called Me,
To
just
Marley
Me.
and me, it's me.
If that gives away what happens to Marley. Oh my
We
God.
are off track. Okay, so hold on. What is
Oh,
Mike
good
putting on the screen?
All right.
Okay, somebody read this.
Men said a Cosmopolitan survey.
Oh, that's good.
That's
That's
not
gonna
accurate.
be good.
Anyway, about what men said, almost 5% of men said real men never cry no matter what. About 39% felt crying should only be in response to tragedies like the death of a loved one, while 27% said it's okay for a man to get emotional at any time. The remaining 29% say it's okay for a guy to cry whenever, so long as it's not publicly.
Okay, so
Women's-
which category are you in? Are you the 39% that you could cry only in tragedies?
No, but in
I think
private.
he's in the 5% there.
To get emotional.
Yeah, I think.
I know. He's like never.
George
He's
is like
like
a 5%.
No,
He's
he
a
said
5%.
he's 27.
No.
He's 27.
I'm a 27 and 39.
No, sorry. You're
No.
I'm a
29%.
I'm somewhere between that 39.
Yeah, I'm at 39 and
Like
27.
it should be. I mean,
Mike, put this on the screen so the people at home
Call
can
me
see this
33.
too.
Call me 33.
no. See,
Between 39 and 27.
crying should be a response. A man. No. I'm not saying when a man should cry or what should prompt you to cry. It's the openness to like who your audience is when you're crying.
Let me hear. I'm gonna read you one of the comments. One of the comments says most wives feel more connected to her husband when she sees him cry. Women love expression of emotions.
that was
She's
my
lying.
that was my wife. My wife wrote that.
we could go off a whole other topic. We could go off
That
a
was
whole
my
other
wife.
topic.
Thank you, baby.
Now, Mike, I don't think
ultimately-
Ride or die.
whatever that woman said is true. But I'm saying it's a thing where it's a regular thing and it's a once in a blue. It doesn't usually happen. You know what I mean? It isn't something regular. You're not regularly or every month or every 2 months you're having a breakdown in front of your wife. That is not the right thing to do. Now, once in a blue, I think that's exactly true because I did that. You know what I mean? And My girl told me the same thing, you know what I mean? But I wasn't crying hard. I was just like the tears. That's what I'm saying. Crying hard and tears is two different
It's the
things.
level of crying.
No,
that
there's
matters.
levels.
No,
to
wait a
it.
minute, hold on. Now it's like
No, there's
so
levels.
basically you're saying there's two factors. That's what I'm hearing you say. There's two factors. One, what you're crying about. Is it worthy of a good cry?
Definitely a
Or,
factor.
or if you, are you overdoing it?
Yeah.
And two, the level of intensity of the cry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those that
Look, there could be a sniffle. You could cry. I could cry right now. Nobody even know I cried. I could be like, man, something got stuck in my eye. I was crying. I'm talking about
See, I wouldn't consider that
tears.
crying. Though. I'd consider that
Okay.
just kind of like
Getting
you
emotional.
know, you got a little verklempt at the moment, and you reeled it back in.
Clem, I like that. I'm gonna have to keep that one.
Everybody use that in a sentence tomorrow. Everybody needs to use that in a sentence tomorrow.
SNL, it's
Word of the
classic.
day.
Reclaim.
yeah, but
Clem.
okay. So
But we're
let me.
That
I'm saying
changes
there's
how I
different
feel
levels of
about what you
we're
said.
trained since we're little
If you say,
not to
like,
show emotion.
A tear is different than.
Like since you're
Yeah,
very
everyone-
little
yeah, I'm
and you
saying.
cry,
I can see
everybody's
that's what I'm
like, "Stop
girl.
crying!" Like you know what I mean? Like
I
so.
think that you may be right, but do you think that's the right thing?
No,
Do you think bottling up
No.
emotion is the right thing?
no, I don't think so. I think that leads up to like a lot of anger and you not being able to communicate and a bunch of other issues. Because you're especially as a kid, as a young man, you're feeling a certain type of way, and you're already being trained and programmed that whatever it is that you're feeling is not valid. You should chuck it up and just go.
I just can't. Hide
I'm not saying bottling up.
Well, that's
I'm
what
saying
happens.
select your moments and either
But we're
just I'm saying there has to be a safe place for you to do that, and there are places that are not safe places to do that.
But we say that as adults having this conversation now. But the reality is that to young boys that cried for whatever reason that they're crying, we tell them, chop chop. Like
Right.
you're not
No.
don't do that.
Oh,
You're
growing
a
up,
boy.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
that
So
happens a lot.
we
it's
do.
not that.
So we do grow up as men with that. I have to be strong. I have to be strong. I have to be strong. I can't cry. I can't show emotion. I have to. It's like you're almost programmed to that.
What do you say? Because this is one of
But
one of the
less and less as time is going on.
one of the
Right.
discussion points will be from the gospel in this series when Jesus
wept.
says he weeps, but in the passage there's this really interesting Greek phrase. We'll go over it in the sermons, but that there's this bellowing that takes place, and it's in front of two women.
He bellowed. Jesus bellowed.
Yeah,
So he cried hard.
big time.
Well, that's
For
when
what?
he,
What was
when he
this
heard
for?
the death of Lazarus, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
this was Lazarus.
Yeah.
Okay. That was his boy.
That's like a.
But specifically in front of two
Yeah, it's
women.
like a
But that was his sisters. One was his sister, right? Wasn't it Lazarus? Wait, wasn't both of them his sisters? Mm-hmm. Sisters. He's weep. Remember, mourn with those who are mourning. He's mourning with them.
So I'm literally going like in the la la land over here. That's an interesting problem.
What are you saying?
Well, I'm just saying I'm surprised by the fact that we could be emotional, but that the closest human relationship that you should have should be precluded from the show of that emotion. That surprises me.
Certain occasions. That's not across the board. Just to make sure you know.
She would be my go-to person.
But
Like if something
think
is
what
hurting
Mike
me,
is saying that there shouldn't even come down to certain occasions. You should be unabashedly able to express that. That's what Mike's
she
saying,
is.
right?
I mean,
that's,
she is my
I
go-to
guess
person.
what I'm
Trying to get
saying
confirmation.
is that
no, I don't want to speak for him, but
I'm
I think
saying
what he's saying
it's
is
a weird
that's the
thing.
surprise that because he's
it's a
saying
weird
like
thing
the
'cause I
wife.
can count on one hand the amount of times. So I'm advocating for something that hasn't happened a lot. I can count on one hand the amount of times I've cried in front of my wife. Right? I can definitely. It's definitely a very few amount. But
Bellowed?
I do bellowed. I would say no.
Bellowed?
She would say no. He's never done that.
Okay.
Right? But I do know guys who have exemplary marriages, extremely, like the kind of marriage I would want to attain, right? Who have a very emotionally open relationship.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Like
Where-
you kind of admire it, wish you had it type.
yeah, that he would. He's just kind of the guy, kind of a personality that would cry at the drop of a hat. But you know.
okay.
But he would.
It's all right.
I'm
that
right
would
here.
Be a normal
It's
thing.
all right. It's all right.
That'd be an order. You know, does that make sense?
I mean, he's talking about me.
I get it.
Yeah.
That has a lot to do with, I believe, they probably have really traditional defined roles in
They
their
do.
marriage too,
Yeah.
right?
They do.
And they probably have great communication.
Yes,
too.
they do.
Yeah,
Like
we do.
fantastic communication
Yes.
between
So
them. So maybe that's the problem.
There
Maybe-
are, as minimal as I believe they are, I believe that there are cases where, if those things are in order, okay, then we're talking about a different.
So what we're saying then essentially is that things aren't in order with me and him, and that's like how we're in our place. And when we get there, God willing, we can get to what you're talking about with that type of relationship. Because that's what that
Bro,
means. It's
you.
internal. Hey, it's internal
trying.
then. That means it's an internal
jersey's
thing.
retired.
Checked out. You feel me? He's like, nah, Glenn, you're gonna have to ride this boat by yourself.
Yeah, you're home.
Man, I thought we was riding this
I'll be there
together.
for you.
He was like,
He got off.
Crib.
He got off and took the lifeboat. He's like, you're on your
but
own.
I think that's what it might be, though. I think it might be internal. You know, like Juan says. Also, I'm gonna put Juan in here too. I'm gonna get everybody. You guys say something, I'm gonna add you guys too. But
What do you think? You
when
think
Juan
you
was
can
talking
cry in
about
front of
going
your
ahead
spouse?
and
Absolutely. Like if something happens, like she would be the person that I would be like, this crushed me.
Do you think it's a bad sign that we don't cry more often than we do?
is it a bad sign?
Yeah,
Well,
like are we
I mean-
emotionally closed off in some way?
I wouldn't say we were. I feel like ours wasn't that. Yeah, you're the one. You're like, I've never Bella. We're
Yeah.
all like, oh yeah, it's last week.
No.
He's like,
Let me correct the record here. I didn't say I've never belted. I said in front of my wife.
That's what we.
So when was the last time you
That's what
bellowed?
this whole thing we was talking about in front of your wife.
It's
Like a
been
hard cry, yeah, because
long
wasn't that the
time.
original
Yeah, the
question?
original question
When's the
was
last
talking
time you
about your
hard
life.
cried?
Yeah, but
Right.
that was not number one. That wasn't in front of my spouse, and number two, that would have been a much longer time ago. Like
Teenagers, early 20s.
definitely.
I don't know that no
late
definition of
20s,
bouts.
early 30s. Yeah, it's been a long
Bellow?
time.
Yeah, that's like that.
Oh
whale
no, I haven't
noise.
done that.
The one that you bellowed.
No, I haven't bellowed.
I like to call it ugly
I
crying.
do.
So.
I
Was
agree,
it
Clyde, no matter
spiritual
what.
related, or was it like
No,
just
it's a
worldly?
betrayal relation, like a betrayal thing.
That was last time.
That's
Yeah.
the
Those
worst.
hurt.
Yeah.
Those hurt.
Yeah,
Those hurt.
that was a long time ago.
Sure, but like if it's like a death or like, you know, like for example, like when my mom got really sick. Now, at first I was like, but then I had like a lot of guilt behind it because I thought the whole time like I was like, she's not faking it. There's no way she's sick. And then she ended up in the hospital. Like it hit me hard when I got home because I was like, oh man. And then I went to my wife and I was like, babe, I was like, this whole time I thought that she was like kind of faking it and she wasn't. You know, but she is my.
So wait a minute, your mom was sick. You thought she was faking. You were hard on her, and then she had to go to the hospital.
Yeah, she got really
You should be
sick.
ashamed of
I am.
She's
I am. I said I felt bad
It's
afterwards.
as bad as it gets.
It's a long story. I grew up with a lot of trauma.
I get it.
There was like, yeah.
Talk about childhood trauma.
There's a
That's
lot.
some things.
This
Yeah.
guy
We gotta
here.
unpack here.
But
Make sure it's real this time, right?
Okay.
yeah, exactly. That's what happened. I was like, you're gonna be sick all week and then drinking and dancing on Saturday. So it's like, so
Okay.
at that time, I'm like, are you?
Do you think that this group, back to the same question that you spun it back to me, but do you think that we're closed off a little bit? Like, do you think it's possible that we believe something culturally about the expression of emotion? Do you
Fresh
think
set of
okay,
eyes.
let me ask you this. Do you think this is
eyes.
different culturally? Do you think it's different culturally?
No.
You don't think so?
I'm Hispanic and like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm Hispanic and like we're taught not to have any emotions,
didn't
but
ask
I'm not like that.
No, I'm saying.
So
Like if you talk to my brother will be more in line with you.
Yeah,
We're
but
like,
you're American Hispanics.
no, but so is my brother. My
Yeah.
brother was raised here.
Well, what if you're raised in a different culture? You think it'd be different?
Say that again? No, if we were there, yeah, no.
What
if
do you mean
we,
there?
In DR. If we were in the Dominican Republic, like there's no such thing.
The
as
Latino culture
you be calling
is very
names for
firm
crying out
on-
loud.
Yeah, there will
I
be
would say
no
there ain't a lot of guys
crying
crying in
ever
front of
for
their
no
things would
wives
become
in the Latino
coming into
culture.
question if you were crying out.
Definitely
I'm
different.
not saying it isn't gonna happen,
So,
but it's very
yeah, my
rare.
uncle-
Very machismo.
Very
Yeah.
close-
Middle East
like I
and
said.
stuff like that. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I
Middle
think that
East?
there's other cultures that are. Yeah,
Imagine a Middle
What about
Eastern
French?
man crying in front of his wife.
all the time.
French.
Yeah, what about the French? They're a bunch of weenies.
They cry all the time. They
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah, they probably.
They've never won a war.
I don't know.
I mean,
They probably
They've
cry.
never won a war.
Right? They're a bunch of weenies. I mean, come on.
We got any French congregants?
Yeah, like
Le oui.
Not that that should be the gauge.
Yeah.
But do you think other cultures would embrace this display of emotion differently than American culture?
I think some Europeans probably are more easy with showing their emotions.
Germans.
How about generation? I think the younger generation are a lot. These young guys now are a lot more emotional than we were, for sure.
Oh, these brothers,
Yeah.
these brothers show up
Yeah.
on
What brothers?
post videos crying.
Emo.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
my God.
yeah.
It is
It's
generation
beyond,
emo.
it's beyond.
I'm not gonna lie
God.
though. I would say.
You're part of that generation.
I would
know.
say, yeah, I'm not. I wouldn't say
little
I'm a stone-hearted man.
I'm not either.
I'd
not
say
about
I'm with you.
being
I'm
stoned.
not.
about being-
And you don't want to be.
I'm saying if
No.
I watch a good enough movie, I'm tearing up. I'm tearing up.
Hacksaw Ridge.
Bro,
Down.
I know
Like,
people are
that's
watching, but
evident.
ET gets me every single time, and I watched it.
Bro,
hundreds
I
of
went
times,
down-
You know what I'm saying?
Wait, Hacksaw Ridge, and they were like, "Shut that lady up." I'm like, "Okay."
It's not about being stone-hearted. It's
Hacksaw
about
Ridge, bro.
who you hard cry around. Wasn't that the question?
No,
it's not about being stone-hearted.
question was
I
about
actually
crying,
think
right? It's
Hacksaw
just
Ridge
about
was with a
crying.
group of guys from church when we
That's
saw
cool.
it.
That's safe. I think that's safe.
It's interesting to me. Like, do you see in Jesus in the Gospels? Do you see more vulnerability in him than us, or less vulnerability?
Well,
Why is he so
Jesus.
confident to have this bellowing public?
Because
cry?
he's God.
When you're I'm about to say, there's a son of God.
Who's
I
gonna
think
question
got
his-
enough
his-
confidence
come on,
in
man.
me.
Okay, but that brings up an interesting point. Like, do you think we should try to emulate that?
Of course.
Well-
Remember, his whole
well-
life. Wait, hold up.
Okay.
His whole life. This goes to internal problems. His whole life is made for us as an example to try to follow. Does that mean that we have the capabilities to go ahead and apply that in our lives 100%? No. What it does mean is that we have work to do.
Do we want to? Also, no.
We got work to do. We got to recognize our shortcomings first, because some people don't even know they have these shortcomings. Some people think this is normal. At least you get to the point where you're like, you know what? This could be an issue. Maybe I do need to work on this a little more. Maybe I do need to curb it. But
think of how rare it is, though, for the right thing to do is to be isolated. It's very rare. And like Jesus,
That's interesting.
Jesus cried in front of them, right, with Lazarus, but he also did isolate himself before he died on the cross. And so
But even there, he cried.
that's what I'm saying.
Blood.
So he isolated himself. he isolated
Sweat
himself
blood.
to cry there,
Sweat blood.
but he didn't with Lazarus.
oh, you're right.
So
In Gethsemane.
So it's
in the
both-
Garden
But
of
it,
Both
Gethsemane.
it appears like
Kissimmee?
you bring up-
Kissimmee?
The Garden of Gethsemane.
He was in the Garden of
Gethsemane.
He was the Garden of Kissimmee.
Yosemite
Listen,
Sam.
you bring up a very interesting point, which is that there tends to be
times.
there tends to be this kind of like unwritten rule in the scripture. You're right that we're to be in community. To be separated is for a very short time, for a very specific reason, and then we're to reunite with community. It's in fact, think about it. With even in marriage, it says, hey, you're only breaking the routine of sexual bond in a marriage for a very specific purpose, for a very specific time. You're going right back to it. Like that becomes exemplary of the rest of relationship and our adoption into community. But that's interesting that you caught that point. Like Jesus doesn't appear to be very turned off by the concept of being publicly emotional.
Jesus, Jesus.
But
No,
you
but-
think we should? I mean, but what would Jesus?
Look,
do?
no,
What
no,
would
no,
Jesus
God,
do?
God
Mike,
didn't.
I think you're
Jesus
missing the
didn't
point
have
what
the
he said,
warmest
too.
reception back then. What kind of reception do you think he'd have
I
today?
got what you said.
I don't know.
I think you might have missed what he was saying.
Okay, what-
I think what he was saying is that you were saying that, hey, look, he's willing to cry in front of people, but he would say, hey, there's also times that Jesus went away
Removed
from
himself
people
and said-
and cried
Yeah,
by
but
himself.
that's not the context of this conversation. The context of this conversation was, hey, you got to be real careful who you cry in front of.
No, I thought the context was, is it okay to cry in front of people?
No, what I'm saying is,
And we were
I'm
saying there's
using
certain
Jesus-
times. No,
I'm
I'm
using
saying what me and George was about. Hey, there's certain times, certain areas. Hey, it isn't good to cry in front of people all the time. And then what Grayson just pulled up is, hey, even Jesus pulled away and didn't
Well,
cry in front of
not
people.
really, because
Yeah,
what,
help
I'm
me out
thinking,
here, Greg.
what I'm thinking, like you think of Moses. Moses left for like 40 years, and that's not like the Moses left. Everyone leave for 40 years, mourn that you did something. Like Moses killed the guy. Didn't he leave for like forever and then God?
let me
called
give
him
you
back?
another zinger. You ready for another zinger?
Jonah. People who leave and do things on their own, it's almost always wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, give me another.
Well, I'll give you another
one if you
zinger.
want.
When Moses dies, he lets the Israelite mourn for, what is it?
40 days.
It's a long time. Like, I think it's even longer than that. I got to check it, but I think it may be 40 days, but I think it's longer.
It's usually 40.
Yeah, but it's like,
It's like Billie Jean. 40 days to 40 nights.
but I'm just saying, like, they cry, there's this public, like weeping
There's
that,
like
that
the-
God allows. They's like, get out there and mourn.
Job, isn't Job like out in the yard like with ashes on him with
Bro,
his friends? Like
Joe,
isn't that, like-
Joe, come on. God and the devil were like let's break this dude. Of course he cried, man.
But I'm saying,
They said that's the collab of the eternity.
They play
that's what we're
Hold My
talking
Beer.
about.
I bet you, yeah, I
Hold
bet
my
you I
beer.
can make him cry. I bet you I can make him cry. Come on, man.
I'm just saying, I'm using examples.
If Job didn't cry, man.
Oh my gosh. I'm just saying it's interesting that there's a bunch of cases where there's this public condoning of the display of emotion, but it feels like, number one, we can't name a lot of times we've been emotional publicly. Number
especially.
two, we actually listed some people we're not supposed to be emotional in front of, right?
We live in
And
a
there was
broken
kind
world.
of some agreement, right? And it doesn't appear like that's lining up very well with what we read in the scripture.
We live in a broken world.
That goes
There's a
to
lot of
show
things that don't line up
brokenness.
with what we
That's
read
what
in
I keep on trying to tell you, Mike.
Scripture.
We're broken.
I would say though.
So
I'm not saying to accept the brokenness, but this is where we at. That's the we have these.
I'm saying.
do you feel like he's saying accept the brokenness?
Wait, what now?
It sounds like it, Elizabeth.
Oh no.
It's just Mitch.
We have to look. Recognizing where you are is not accepting or wanting to be someplace else. You could go ahead and say, hey, I'm here. I want to be here. I would like to be in this emotional, stable place where I can cry in front of my wife and not feel a certain way, not feel like I'm being too vulnerable. You see what I'm saying? But at
Okay.
the same time, right now, this is where I'm at. I'm not afraid to say where I'm at. That's the problem. You're getting too idealistic, Mike. I'm going to have to get this guy idealistic. You're getting too idealistic. You know, let's talk about the
Shots
real.
fired.
Let's talk about the real. None of us get it all right all the time.
No.
You know, when it comes to this emotional.
So let me rephrase,
Especially
and you
as
tell
men.
me if I'm articulating your views correctly.
Please.
It sounds like what you're saying is we should be able to be emotional and vulnerable in front of the people in our world. In fact, it should be the goal of like our emotional stability and emotionality and health. But because we live in a broken world, we can't.
No.
And we should.
Right.
I didn't say we can't.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm saying I'm 100%.
That's what I'm
I'm
saying.
You can't because we can always change with the power of the Holy Spirit of Jesus
Praise Him.
Christ. You
Can
see what I
we?
mean?
Can we
can't-
always change?
We can't accept. We don't have to say, "Hey, this is the way I am. This is the way I always be." That's it. Because
We
with
can't?
time, no, I said we can't. We can't go ahead and accept where you're raw. Well, I'm not saying people can't. People can say, "Hey, I'm fine like this," but usually,
What if it's a physical disability?
why are you trying to throw curveballs to one thing and then you want to go into something else? I'm trying to get my thoughts together just for this thing, like, so I don't go off. I'm like,
You'll make Glenn cry, man.
I'm just saying, accept where you are. Be willing to go somewhere else, though. You know.
Yeah,
I
nothing
don't
changes
think
if nothing
it's good
changes.
To accept exactly where you are when it comes to emotions like that.
Right.
Because it,
Go ahead, explain that.
Well,
Say it.
emotional states seems like it could be it's something you could change.
yeah. I mean, that's if I'm trying to emulate Christ, and I'm being taught. Now, I really wasn't taught this to bottle my emotions. My father,
Me neither.
he was when he said he accepted Christ, God gave him a heart because he had a very rough childhood.
Okay.
And he had no problem expressing his emotions in front of
Right.
his family, his wife, anybody.
Right.
And so I can't say that I'm that emotional as much as he is, but if I'm trying to emulate Christ, then I've been taught, and my culture teaches me, bottle it, don't cry. I do disagree with you. I'll weep in front of my wife. I wept in front of a class before, not wept, but I've cried in front of a class before teaching. Because I was like telling them what Christ has done for me.
Yeah.
And it got me teared up, and I had to like pause for a moment.
I think that's a worthy time to cry.
Yeah,
I mean,
but-
you're talking about
But there's girls in that class, so
right. But when it comes to God, I mean, yeah.
No,
I
but
mean,
and he's the authority there, so that makes me surprised that you're cool with that, because he's the authority figure. He's the teacher.
right. But
he's
there's
the-
no questioning that.
Well, let's end on this thought.
They're
Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 4 says, there's a time to weep, and a time to laugh, and a time to mourn, and a time to dance. And I think what we're saying here is that, I think what this passage is saying is, hey, these are the natural seasons to life, that there are going to be some changes in emotion, there are going to be ups and downs, there are going to be undulation, highs and lows. And I think that what we do with those emotions and how we treat the people around us and engage the people around us in these emotional times will many times define our life, our whole character. It'll define our witness. It'll define, how we function and how people feel safe or connected to us or all those things. It's going to be one of the most defining things about our lives is how we deal with these extreme moments, right? Whether they're anger or mourning or dancing or laughing or weeping. And, of course, everybody wants to have the laughing more, but there's going to be times where we weep.
There's a song. It's a great song.
But
To
you notice how they say
everything turned.
there's a time, though. There's a time for it.
There's time. Yep.
There's a time.
Okay. You're focused on the time part.
I'm just saying, there's a time.
Yeah.
No, I'm just reading scripture. A time.
I want to add one more thing. Go ahead. I've never felt uncomfortable crying in church, and I've never thought it was weird when somebody did cry in church.
Okay.
So I think if there's a time for somebody to cry, I mean, if you guys can remember, there's like a month or two ago where somebody broke down in the middle row there.
Yeah.
Broke down. And I was like, hopefully, this is the place I want him to do that.
Yep.
I didn't think it was weird. I was happy he was doing that. I felt like maybe it was that thing we were explaining earlier. Maybe he needed to let that out.
Yeah.
I'm glad he's doing it at church. I'm glad the pastor could talk to him right afterwards.
Yeah.
I'm glad he could do
It should be a safe haven.
I feel like
You can do
church
that.
is a time
This is a safe
time
place.
to cry.
This is a safe place.
Yes.
I agree. All right.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. We will start a sermon series on Sunday. We're calling it Emotionality. We're going to spend some time looking at these pictures from the Gospels, specifically when Jesus showed strong emotions. We're going to let those sermons launch discussions on Wednesday night, similar to one that you heard tonight. And we'd like to invite you to be a part of that. So if you'd like to participate in some of those discussions on Wednesday night, be sure to hit me up. You can hit me up on text, email, Facebook, whatever. And we're also going to invite you to be live in the audience if you want to be. If you want to be here to listen to that discussion take place and lob in questions as we go, you are welcome to do it. Live stream every Wednesday night at 7, and we invite you to join this new series on Sunday morning, Emotionality. I will see you then. Say goodbye to my dogs. All right. Peace. Peace. All right.